What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Facemask Fantasy. Welcome to the first start-sit live stream of Week 2. Lots to get through. Lots of injury updates to talk shop on before we start making decisions on what the lineup will be, what your lineup will be for the Sunday slate. Some big pieces of news to sort through over the past couple of days that we can talk shop on. Some recent developments, what some absences mean for certain players. We will get into all of that. As always, if you have a start-sit question, members will get first priority. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. I will go out of order, out of line to address member questions. If you are feeling generous enough to offer a super, that would also be a line jumper. You don't have to, but it will get your question answered more quickly. And then after that, I will get to everybody else. So I just ask for some patience. And of course, if you're not a subscriber of the channel, that is all I ask for you to participate in these streams. That doesn't cost you a thing. Just asking for subscription to the channel, and you can ask your question in the chat, and you will get an answer. So through the Friday practice reports, for the Chiefs, Hollywood Brown is expected to be placed on injured reserve. His injury is a months-long injury, not a weeks-long injury. So Hollywood Brown is officially a drop in redraft. If you were still holding him, perhaps you were stashing him on IR. If you only have one IR spot, there's no sense hanging on to him. We're not going to be seeing Hollywood Brown anytime soon. That's what it sounds like. T. Higgins is doubtful for Week 2. That's no surprise. For the second straight week, he has not practiced a single day. He will miss his second straight game. Cincinnati will go into Week 2 against Kansas City undermanned. And that situation remains pretty volatile at best right now. T. Higgins is not only is he nursing something, the vibes have not been good with T. Higgins and the team for the entire offseason. They slapped the franchise tag on him. The team and the player were not able to come to any type of agreement on a long-term deal. So Higgins isn't happy. There's a chance that is potentially contributing to his absence. So when we will see him next is at this point a question mark, which is unfortunate because you were probably drafting him in the 4th or 5th round, which is a round where you're relying on those players that are drafted 40, 50 picks into a draft. You're relying on them from the start. So that one hurts. Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz are both set to play for the Houston Texans. I think Schultz is maybe a little bit more of a surprise, but he is expected to be out there, not on the injury report for Week 2. So good news for the Houston Texans ahead of their Sunday night matchup against Chicago. Russell Wilson is officially questionable. We'll see what happens there. Jordan Addison officially ruled out for Week 2. Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze are game time decisions. That's what I last saw for the Chicago Bears. I thought Rome Odunze was potentially, staring down a multi-week absence, but as it turns out, that doesn't appear to be the case. He seems to be fine. Like much sooner rather than later. So that's good news for the Bears. Josh Downs is listed questionable. That's only for larger leagues. But he does potentially have some 10 and 12 team league appeal in the coming weeks if he's able to get healthy. Jordan Love is doubtful. No surprise there. And I believe he's officially been ruled out. He will not play. That was almost never in question. Jaden Reed is also questionable. If he goes, you probably have no choice. You probably have to fire up Jaden Reed unless you are loaded at wide receiver. Roman Wilson is listed questionable for week 2, deep leagues only. Jamison Williams is listed questionable for week 2. I think he's going to play. I am pretty sure that he is going to play. The vibes seem good around Jamison Williams, so he should be a go for Sunday in what should be a decently high-scoring matchup between the Bucs and the Lions. So J-Mo can comfortably be fired up. Jake Ferguson is listed doubtful for week 2. My favorite tight end stream of the week is Colby Parkinson, if you were able to get your hands on Parkinson. Outside of the other obvious names at tight end, i.e. the guys that you drafted in the first 8 or 9 rounds of your draft this year, outside of those names, Jake Ferguson aside, of course, who is not looking likely to play, but outside of anybody other than, Kelsey, Laporta, McBride, Pitts, Kittle, Andrews. You started Kincaid Thursday night. That didn't work out, but you had to roll with him. Evan Ingram, Brock Bowers. Those are the names. Other than that, it should be Colby Parkinson if you were able to grab him. Dameon Pierce listed questionable, so figured Joe Mixon's going to continue to see all the work that he can handle. He led the league in rushing last week. Does he do that again? I don't know if he leads the league again, but he could lead the league in usage again. That's certainly possible. Kenneth Walker listed doubtful, so tough spot on the road for Zach Charbonnet, but it is looking likely that he will get the lion's share of work. I do not love the matchup on the road against the New England Patriots. I think that's a tougher spot for him. But he will get plenty of, he'll get plenty of opportunities. He'll get plenty of work. So could come through on some volume. And then, okay, it's official. Russell Wilson is he's not expected to play week 2. So he's essentially going to get ruled out. So it's going to be another week of Justin Fields. Could be fired up in Superflex leagues. Tough to trust in one quarterback leagues, but in, potentially larger 14-team 1 QB leagues, then perhaps he's on the radar. And then before I get to the big one, not that this isn't significant either, but A.J. Brown was not seen participating for the Eagles today in practice. He's officially questionable for Monday night. So if you have A.J. Brown, you're putting him in the flex. And if he's in, you're playing him. Move A.J. Brown to the flex if he's not already there. And the alternate options, if he's not able to go, are Jahan Dotson for Philly and, either Darnell Mooney, who might already be rostered in your league, who probably isn't rostered in your league, is Ray McLeod, who, go figure, led them in, I believe he led them in receiving yards week 1, because of course. So he would be an alternate option for Monday night if you have A.J. Brown and he ultimately is unable to go. So the plan with A.J. Brown is simple. You put him in your flex. If he's active, he's in. He plays. He's in your starting lineup. If he's out, a Jahan Dotson or a Ray McLeod is your fallback for Monday Night Football. The big one, of course, is the news about Christian McCaffrey, which almost felt inevitable at this point, but now it's official. Following week 1, Rule determined that he was dealing with Achilles tendonitis, which was very vague and kind of ambiguous when that report came out. Like, how severe is it? What does this mean, essentially? How long is he going to be out for? Now we know, or we at least have some form of a timeline. Placed on injured reserve, will miss the next 4 weeks. So McCaffrey, the soonest he could return is week 6. This sounds the vibes at least are more pessimistic than optimistic about Christian McCaffrey. The 49ers bye week is week 9. So obviously, first and foremost, hoping that McCaffrey is able to get back 100% as soon as possible. But the news has been getting worse with each passing day with McCaffrey, not better. He returned to practice that first week after the preseason ended, and everything seemed like it was fine. The calf injury was something that, yes, he picked up in the offseason during training camp. We're going to shut him down for now. The severity was a little murky at the time, but there were no red flags thrown up prior to people holding their drafts, because he still went first overall in probably every single one quarterback league, or almost all of them anyway. And in full PPR leagues, he was probably taken in, I don't know, half of those or so. Now he's done until at least week 5. The vibes continue to stay negative. The news has not been getting better as it pertains to Christian McCaffrey. I would not be surprised. I'm not reporting anything. I'm not, predicting anything, but I would not be surprised if Christian McCaffrey is held out until the 49ers bye week. Like, this is starting to feel like maybe we see McCaffrey week 10. Maybe we see him week 10. I don't know that we're going to see him before then. Hopefully we do, for not just McCaffrey's sake, but those who took the plunge and took him first overall, which was damn near everybody in one quarterback leagues with the first overall pick. But there's no way you feel great right now unless you grabbed, whether it was as a handcuff in the draft or immediately on waivers at the time of Monday Night Football kicking off last week, if you grabbed Jordan Mason, then you are exhaling in the largest way, in the biggest way. Let me say, for like a general overarching question about Jordan Mason or somebody else, generally speaking, the answer is going to be Jordan Mason. I don't know that he's going to, be the RB1 in a way that McCaffrey, that's McCaffrey's upside every single week, is an overall RB1 on the week. But he is in the top 10 or top 12 conversation for running backs for the foreseeable future. Jordan Mason needs to be started pretty much in every format, in every situation. He's an RB1 until further notice. Maybe he's not as valuable in full PPR leagues, but he's still in the must-start territory. For at least the next month, there are not going to be 11 or 12 more valuable running backs than Jordan Mason. He is in your lineup. You are finding ways to squeeze him into your lineup, even over some guys that you figured would be regular contributors for you that you drafted maybe in the 6th or 7th round. So if you have Jordan Mason, congrats. Hopefully if for your sake, if you're the McCaffrey owner, hopefully you have him. If you're not the McCaffrey owner and you have him, your team may, you might comfortably be able to look at your team each week and think, I can hit my ceiling. I can hit my ceiling every single week. So you're firing him up moving forward until we get good news about Christian McCaffrey. And even then, even in his first couple games back, at least his first game back, you're probably starting Mason in that game as well, whenever that might be. All right, we can get into questions now. Appreciate everybody's patience as I work through the latest injury news. And again, members will get first priority as far as questions getting answered. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you, man. As a member, you will also get your username shouted out so you know it's you. I may not necessarily do that for the general public, but I will answer your question. So just ask for some patience and just be on the just keep an ear out, essentially. Members get first priority. If you are feeling generous enough to offer a super, you don't have to, but if you do, that would be a line jumper as well. And then I will get to everybody else. Appreciate the kind words, Sam. Thank you so much. Let me get to Greg first, and then I will start back up at the top. Appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out today. Hope y'all are having a good weekend so far and a good week in general. Yeah, and let's get these dubs starting tomorrow. You were able to get Parkinson for Fergie. Nice. Good job, Greg. Colby Parkinson is like the tight end 10 on the week this week for me. I have him ranked as a top 10 tight end. The only guys you're starting over him are the obvious names who are healthy that you drafted in the first 70 or 80 picks of your draft this year. Everybody else, Parkinson is ahead of. You know, David Njoku's also out, but like Hunter Henry, Ty Conklin, Cade Otton, I would say even Isaiah Likely. I know Isaiah Likely went nuclear last week, but he's still splitting work with Mark Andrews. Parkinson has that job to himself. And with no Puka, I would actually put Parkinson above Likely. You could argue that. You could argue the two. And if you have Likely, there's a chance you're firing him up, which is totally fine. I have him as the tight end 11 for this week. So still a tight end 1 in 12-team leagues. But I like Parkinson quite a bit as a stream this week. So nicely done. Love is officially out. Yes. Between Caleb, Darnold, do you go with Fields? You could. I mean, see, the tough thing with Caleb Williams is he's playing on Sunday night. So you have to make the call on Fields versus Caleb before the Sunday night kickoff. Greg, let's wait on what the vibes might be of the availability of Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze for this game. The last time I saw, they're both game time decisions. If we're getting any positive inkling that Keenan Allen is going to be able to play on Sunday night, I might hold out for Caleb and hope for a better performance week 2 compared to week 1. I understand not wanting to believe in Caleb. He wasn't good. He wasn't good week 1. So, you know, we might need to pump the brakes on the expectations with him for at least in the short term while he kind of gets his sea legs, right? Starts figuring things out. So if you're worried about that, coupled with his receivers might not even be available, 2 of his 3 starters, then it's fine to go to Fields and just hope for the best with the rushing upside. I would say if Keenan Allen is trending toward playing, I don't think the Steelers play until the later slate tomorrow. So you have even a little bit more time after the 1 p.m. kickoffs. I think that's the case. I'm just double checking. Yeah, they play 4:25 tomorrow East anyway. The Steelers do. So if we're getting, you can take it, Greg, up to like the 1:25 kickoff, the 4:25 kickoff. Excuse me. I say 1:25 because that's the West Coast time for the start of the later games. If around the 4:25 kickoff, we maybe get some more positive news about Keenan Allen, then maybe hold off and play Caleb. But if not, it's fine to go Fields. It's fine to go back. It's fine to go with Fields if there's not any positive news that develops from Keenan Allen. And yes, you should probably start. I mean, I would start Pittman over Marvin Harrison at this point. If you can only pick one of those guys, I would start Pittman. I know he didn't have a great week last week. Neither of them did, but Pittman's a proven player at this point, and if you have good options, reliable, proven options to turn to tomorrow, yeah, let's give Marvin Harrison another week and see what comes from week 2. His fortunes should turn around because compared to last week, but it wasn't great. What he did last week was not great. So at least we've seen Pittman do it before. So yeah, that's fine. Appreciate the questions. I'm gonna go back up to the top of the chat. Thank you guys for sitting tight and being patient. Charbonnet or Brian Robinson? Probably Robinson gets the Giants. Charbonnet will get the lion's share of work on the road against New England. I just don't like that spot. I don't like that spot for Charbonnet. The opportunity is there. The opportunity is there. He will get he will get all of the work or most of the work. But I think I lean Robinson, even though Eckler might eat into the workload a little bit. Robinson and Eckler split the number of targets that they received last week, which actually means Robinson is the one cutting into Eckler's work and not the other way around. And it's the Giants, who are probably a bottom 3 team in the NFL. New England is not there yet. They're not good, but their defense is farther along than the Giants is. Like Washington's at home. How big of favorites are the Commanders? Are slight favorites. They're 1.5 point favorites. So that's not a big that's not a significant they're not significant favorites. If they were like maybe 4.5 point favorites, I would say Robinson is a slam dunk no brainer. They're 1.5 point favorites. Obviously, Washington has they have a ways to go as well. But they should have a lot of success running the ball with Jaden Daniels doing his thing in a game at home where they should win. I think I say Robinson. I think I would say Robinson. What's up, Max? Good to see you, man. Am I mainly redraft or dynasty? I try to be able to do both. I try to be able to offer advice for both. So if you've got a dynasty question, I can take that. I try to do off-season work. Obviously, a lot of people, understandably, especially those who just play redraft, they come back in August and September when the start of the season actually is going on. But I try to do stuff for dynasty as well, and I can ask, or I can, if you have questions about dynasty, I can absolutely take them. Yeah, happy to take dynasty questions. I'm in 2 dynasty leagues myself. I've been playing for 4 years now, 3 or 4 years now in dynasty. So not the 20 years that I've been playing redraft, which is an actual number that is not exaggerated. 3 or 4 years in dynasty. So still like on the newer-ish side to playing, but happy to take questions about dynasty for sure. For anybody. The same goes for anybody. If you've got a question about dynasty, I'm happy to take that as well. So yeah, Mason or Ford for the flex. If you can only start one, the answer is Mason. I like Ford. I do. I have been a fan of Ford all off season long. But Mason is in a new, is in a new stratosphere of opportunity between the offensive talent that is on the 49ers that is going to make his life easier, and he figures to continue to get all of the work. This is a tougher matchup by the numbers against the Minnesota Vikings on the road. But the 49ers are one of those offenses where, for fantasy purposes, you kind of don't worry too much about where they're playing. They are a good enough, a great enough offense where you kind of just start those guys no matter what. Mason is kind of, for now, I think he's entered that territory. I like Jerome Ford in his spot against the Jaguars, but Mason is in a prime position in one of the best offenses in football, getting all of the backfield work. I think you have to start Mason. I think you have to start Mason. I like Ford, but if there's no room in the lineup, if there is no room in your lineup for both Mason and Ford, then I think it has to be Mason. I think it has to be Mason. DJ Moore or Zay Flowers? DJ Moore. DJ Moore. Moore right now is the better player, and he has the better opportunity. Keenan Allen and Roma Dunze are both on the injury report. They're both game time decisions. I know Caleb wasn't good week one. Hopefully, now he's got some game action under his belt. Maybe it's a little much to ask in just his second week of game action, but maybe things slow down for Caleb a little bit. Now that he's played his first real NFL game, all due respect to the preseason, this was his first real NFL start. Maybe things get a little easier for him. Whereas with Flowers, good player, I just don't know if the volume is there between the emergence of Isaiah Likely and their matchup. The Ravens are playing the Raiders at home, and they are big favorites. They're probably going to be, if we expect that game to go the way that it does, the Ravens are going to have a double-digit lead in the second half, and they're going to be running the ball. It's going to be a run-heavy game script where Derrick Henry is getting his carries and Justice Hill mixes in. I would say DJ Moore against the Houston Texans, where I would say that is a little bit more likely. The Bears are more likely going to have to keep pace with the Texans. They're going to have to throw. And the other guys, the other starting wide receivers for them are banged up. DJ Moore over Zay Flowers for sure. DJ Moore over Zay Flowers. What do you do with Jalen Waddle? Yeah, so the same question, this also applies to Tyreek Hill. We can talk about the Dolphins. I don't know if we're going to see Tua again. And based on what happened, while I want Tua to play if he wants to play, he shouldn't play. He shouldn't play. And I could get on a soapbox and talk about why. I'm not going to do that. I just don't think he should play given the latest circumstances. If that doesn't happen, then yes, the ceilings for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are gone. And right now, people are going to be operating with extreme caution around those two guys. I can't imagine you're going to be able to get much for them right now because their ceilings are in limbo. Their ceilings for the season are in limbo. Whether it's Skylar Thompson that starts and maybe continues to start games for the Miami Dolphins, maybe they contact somebody like Ryan Tannehill, which would help. Theoretically, we don't know how much Ryan Tannehill has left in the tank, but he, at least he's a vet. He could maybe elevate their floors a little bit, but I would be shocked if you can get anything other than a clear downgrade in a trade right now for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I don't think we have a choice. I think we have to kind of just hold tight on those guys. Because coming into the season, let's throw a scenario out there. If you drafted Tyreek Hill third, fourth, maybe overall, who would you accept for Tyreek Hill in a trade? Probably nothing less than like the other guys that were drafted around him. CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Now what now, today, right now, in this instance, in this moment, what do you think you could get for Tyreek Hill? A guy drafted a round later? I think people would be awfully hesitant to do that right now. That's what I would guess. And then the same logic applies to Jalen Waddle. You're going to get a discounted offer, which I mean, from a perspective of cutting your losses, I just don't know that I'm ready to do that yet with a guy that I invested a top 30 to 20 or maybe even 25 pick on. That's just like a tough pill to swallow. That's a tough pill to swallow. Like you could get a Chris Godwin, sure, but what if the Dolphins bring in there is a potential. Again, there is a potential scenario here where we possibly see our way through it if you have either Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. If Tua is unable to return and or is encouraged not to return and he goes through with that, then maybe they bring in a Ryan Tannehill. And then at that point, I'm a little bit more intrigued to say, okay, maybe now I hang on to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and see if they can recoup some of their value. And that way I don't feel like I'm losing in a trade for the sake of trading them away. Because they're still excellent players. They are excellent individual players. So it's going to be difficult. And if you do get a good offer, like if somebody offered me an Amari, like a Chris Godwin or an Amari Cooper or, somebody else like for a Jalen Waddle, somebody else drafted around that same range. Yeah, that's going to be enticing today, right now to take because there's so much that's in question. There's so much unknown. But I think I'm ultimately going to pass. Kind of let things fall, let the chips fall where they may, let things play out, see what happens, and go from there. If the Dolphins sign a Ryan Tannehill, their floors might be salvaged. Look what happened with Joe Flacco last year with the Browns. It's a little bit of an apples to oranges comparison, but a veteran presence could smooth things over a little bit if the Dolphins ultimately go that route and or feel like they have to. I would say if you have Tyreek Hill or if you have Jalen Waddle, I would probably just hold. Maybe you can be the one if you don't have one of those guys in your league to go kick the tires. Go see what go ahead, temperature check. Go reach out to the person who has Tyreek Hill in your league. Go reach out to the person who has Jalen Waddle in your league. See how they're feeling. Are they panicking? Maybe you can be the one to try to get of course, there's a lot of risk that comes with it. But to that point, you could negotiate like a discount. You might not have to give up a Chris Godwin. You could even give up a tier below that if you're willing to take the risk. And make no mistake, there's a lot of risk. There's a ton of unknown right now with what's going to happen with the Miami Dolphins offense. But there might be a panic discount available to you if you have Tyreek or Waddle. If you do have those guys, I think I would hold. I think I would wait and let's see what happens. And there's the man. Well, that sucks. There's the breaking news according to ESPN. Chiefs wide receiver Hollywood Brown is not expected to play in the regular season. So, That hurts the Chiefs offense as far as their depth, their wide receiver availability. And obviously Hollywood Brown is an easy drop in all redraft formats. Wheels up on Xavier Worthy, man. The wheels were already up on Rashee Rice. Like that train has left the station. Rashee Rice is a baller and probably a top 20 option between probably a top 20 guy that gets ranked in the flex rankings every week moving forward. And what I mean by that is like top 20 wide receiver, running back combined for the rest of the season. Rashee Rice is a stud, but this is wheels up on Xavier Worthy. This is wheels up. That's wheels up on Xavier Worthy. He might be. I mean, he's in a for right now, because we only have a 1-game sample size of Xavier Worthy. He is still in that like wide receiver 3 kind of volatile boom bust portion of the rankings. But damn, man, like that is the ceiling upside play every week. And if you start 3 receivers and a flex, you might as well start Xavier Worthy. You might as well start him. If you have Xavier Worthy and you start 3 receivers and a flex, you might as well get him into your lineup. If it's 2 receivers and a flex, that is a tougher sell depending on who else you have. But for the rest of the season, in leagues that start 3 receivers and a flex, Xavier Worthy should probably just be in your starting lineup. It's more of a conversation in leagues that only start 2 receivers. But there you go. Hollywood Brown, not according to ESPN. I assume this is an Adam Schefter report. It is not expected to play in the regular season. Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are essentially going to get all of the opportunities at wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. What a development. And I guess in super deep leagues, your 14, 16 team leagues, Justin Watson is worth a look, but that's going to be inconsistent. That's going to be inconsistent. All right. Where did I leave off? The Waddle, the Waddle question. Does McCaffrey ever see the significant beast workloads that he's proven to that he's been able to handle in years past, as at least the past couple of years anyway? I mean, he's in his age 28 season. I don't know that we're going to see him again until we might not see Christian McCaffrey until like November, man. He's already guaranteed out through week 5, and the 49ers have a week 9 bye. So assuming Christian McCaffrey is 100% healthy week 6, well, we can't assume that. That's the only scenario where Christian McCaffrey plays before the week 9 bye, is if he miraculously is 100% after week 5 going into their week 6 matchup. If he is anything less than 100%, which is looking like the case now, we're not seeing him before that week 9 bye. I can't imagine. The heavy workloads, I mean, with something like Achilles tendonitis, I don't think so. And definitely not this year. Definitely not this year. And then, if he comes back this year, I would say, again, unless he is 100%, and I think there's a long road at this point for him to get back to that point, I don't think Mason's going anywhere for a while. If you have him, I mean, you can ask for the moon for Jordan Mason right now. I would ask for Jonathan Taylor. I would shoot higher than Derrick Henry. I know that Jordan Mason wasn't the first overall pick. Christian McCaffrey was, but Jordan Mason is, He's got that job to himself, and it's maybe the most fruitful one that any running back has, is that 49ers offense. If you have him, I would just hold, because you're probably not going to get one of the other top 5 or 6 running backs for him, and that's what I would need to give him up. I would just keep him. I would just keep him. Let's see. You got there's a trade offer here. There's a trade offer here. What's going on, E11? You're right. You could get the rookie as well. You could grab the rookie as well. That would be smart. He's a deep league stash, a dynasty stash for sure. He's a deep league stash, a 14-team league type of deep league stash. Probably can't get him on a team in 12-team. Certainly not in 10-team. I would be surprised unless you're really thin at running back. He's probably not going to be fantasy relevant for a few weeks here, at least. But deep stash, yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. Trade offer. DJ Moore for DK straight up. So you would be acquiring DK Metcalf. I don't think I want to do that. Not yet. Not yet. DJ Moore was drafted higher than DK Metcalf. I don't want to overreact after just 1 week. Plus, now Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze are both battling injuries. And Tyler Lockett, not DK Metcalf, was the first read on more throws from Geno Smith last week. Again, just week 1, small sample size. I understand. Only 1 week sample. Can't possibly, deduce anything for the entire season based off of that. But I don't want to give up DJ Moore yet for DK Metcalf when his running mates, Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, are both on the injury report. And the vibes recently about Odunze are that he could miss more than 1 week. So, no, I'm not trading DJ Moore in exchange for DK Metcalf. I am not doing that. I am not doing that. Sorry, Max, I didn't see the Fields comment. Yeah, I mean, as he continues to get, some games under his belt in the new system, if Russell Wilson continues to remain out, I mean, there's no upside with Russell Wilson at this point. We know that. And I think they ran a decent number of designed runs, Pittsburgh did, for Fields. So if that continues, yeah, the production will come for Justin Fields. It will happen. It will happen. I do think he's got top 15 upside if he remains the starter and is able to get into a rhythm. I agree. Pick your lineup for the week. So I need to know how many running backs do you start? How many, is it start 2 running backs and a flex? Is it start 2 receivers or start 3 receivers? Like, give me some extra context here. I mean, Olave, Nico Collins for sure. Pickens would be my wide receiver 3. If it's 2 receivers and a flex, I would probably start those 3 running backs. If it's 3 receivers and a flex, then I would start those 3 running backs. And then Collins, Olave, and Pickens. I'm not starting Allen Lazard yet just because he had a 2-touchdown game on Monday night. Not over Olave, Nico Collins, or George Pickens. I know Pickens is not in a great matchup, but this is, I don't want to chase touchdowns. Not when, and these dudes were all drafted high. You drafted these dudes high. Let's go back to the well with them for one more week. I would not play Lazard. Pacheco, Mason, or Dobbins. You can only play one of these dudes. Pacheco is probably one of the few names I'm willing to play over Jordan Mason, but it's close. Pacheco against the Bengals at home or Mason against the Vikings on the road. Mason is a top 10 to 12 running back for at least the next month. But if you can't play both of those dudes, you have Dobbins as well. I hate to just flat out dismiss him, but he's absolutely worthy of a stash and hanging onto your bench if you're loaded at running back. But I don't want to go. Let me see it 2 weeks in a row before he enters this conversation. I think I would go Pacheco over Mason. He's one of the few running backs that I am willing to rank over him. There aren't many. The running backs that I want to rank over Jordan Mason are like Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, probably Kyron Williams, and then like Isaiah Pacheco, Joe Mixon's in that conversation. Jahmyr Gibbs is in that conversation certain weeks. Devon Achane is going to be in that conversation certain weeks. Like Mason's going to be right there with all of those guys in the rankings each week. I think I'll go Pacheco, but it's close. It's close. I would probably go Pacheco, but it's close. And what happens to Achane? I was not crazy. First of all, Achane is a freaking baller. But I have to admit, I wasn't crazy about the workload that he received on a short week with them. They were losing big. They were losing big in that game. Achane continued to get a significant workload coming into a short week where he was on the injury report and didn't practice the first opportunity that he had to practice. Monday is typically just like a walkthrough when you have to play on a short week. So the fact that he was listed as a did not practice isn't as big of a deal. He didn't practice on Tuesday. He returned in a limited manner on Wednesday. His availability for this game was was in question all week. Maybe that was smoke and mirrors from the Dolphins. I hope it was, because they gave him the ball like 27 times, right? Or something crazy like that. 22 carries and 7 receptions. He touched the ball 29 times. I think that was by far a career high. Short, in his limited career. He's only played a season and a couple of games. But 29 carries come on a short week on the injury report. I hope that the injury was smoke and mirrors, because that is a crazy workload. As far as what happens to Achane now as it pertains to Tua, he's probably the one who is impacted the least in this offense. Let's see what the injury report next week brings. Obviously, if you have Devon Achane, you don't have too much to worry about for a little bit. He just balled out for you on Thursday night, so you can just enjoy that going into the weekend. But coming out of week 2, going into week 3, I will be very interested to see what his injury status is on the practice reports Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If he's actually healthy, I would say there's nothing to worry about with Devon Achane. But the workload that he got was a little dicey. It was a little concerning to see. That's all. If he's healthy, then great. But he was on the injury report all week leading up to a short week. If he's healthy, if he's all good, he's still a top 10 running back on the season. His receiving floor might even honestly go up a little bit with a backup quarterback who might be, who, backups tend to check it down a little bit more. His receiving floor might honestly even go up. Wide receiver 2 and your flex this week are Jameson Williams, Xavier Worthy, and Josh Jacobs. The Packers have they have a home game. Who are they playing? I forget who it is. The Colts. That's right. Jacobs will get all of the work. Jameson Williams is in the dome on the injury report against the Bucks, and Xavier Worthy is at home against the Bengals. Jacobs probably has to go. Has to probably be in your lineup. Worthy and JMO are very similar players. They're they have big ceilings, but they potentially have low floors. I would say Jacobs has to be in your lineup. His situation isn't great with Malik Willis at quarterback, but he should handle a lot of work. Jacobs should handle a lot of work. I think he was on the injury. Was Jacobs on the injury report? I think he was. Has he been removed from it? He's good to go. Doesn't carry an injury designation heading into the weekend. I think Jacobs needs to be your flex. And then I guess I would play Jameson Williams if he plays over Xavier Worthy. It's volatile. They're both volatile. Both could deliver big weeks. Both could come up small. I guess I will go with Jameson Williams, but it's close. If you're worried about him because he's on the injury report and you want to go with the healthy player, which is Worthy, that's fine. But I think all things equal, I would slightly rank Jameson Williams ahead of Xavier Worthy, but it's close. Do you start Engram, Likely, or Bowers? Oh, man. Is this like a dynasty league? How do you have all of these options? That's a brutal decision that has to be made because tight ends are so freaking volatile. Bowers got really good week 1 usage. Engram didn't. Bad matchup against the Browns. Likely is perfectly fine to start. I think I slightly lean Bowers. He got good usage week 1. The Raiders are in a tough spot as well. They're on the road against Baltimore. They play Isaiah Likely on the other side. I slightly lean Bowers over Likely only because he has more of a vice grip on tight end 1 duties for the Raiders, whereas Likely could still be the Ravens tight end 2 any given week. It's possible Mark Andrews is the one who bounces back and has a good game tomorrow. Whereas Bowers, I think there's a wider gap between Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, the Raiders tight end 2, than there is a gap between Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. So I think I would go Bowers. I don't like that I have to make that choice. But I guess I would play Bowers. What's going on, Jay? Good to see you. As always, for anybody who is just coming in, first of all, thanks for coming in. Hope everybody's having a good Saturday. Hopefully everybody has a successful Sunday when it comes to fantasy tomorrow. For anybody who's just joining me, I do get to my members first. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. You will get your question answered out of order. I have my spot in line, so I haven't forgotten anybody above the member question. So I just ask that you sit tight. Appreciate your patience. I will get to everybody, but a perk of being a member of the channel is that you will get your question answered in priority order. If you're feeling generous enough to offer a super, you don't have to, but that would also be a line jumper to get your question answered faster. If not, I will get to everybody else after the members. So just appreciate y'all's patience. Jay has a question for the flex spot. Do I go Jacobs, Collins, or Brian Robinson in full PPR? I mean, I want to play Jacobs, but I think you have to play in full PPR. I think you have to play Nico Collins. I think you have to play Nico Collins. You drafted him as probably as like a front end, top end wide receiver 1. He didn't do anything to deter you in week 1 from feeling that way about him. He didn't go nuts, but he didn't hurt you too bad either. You drafted him to be a stud. Yeah, he did. I mean, Collins did his thing last week. 6 for 117. Yeah. It has to be Collins. In full PPR, I want to play Jacobs, but if you can only start one, it has to be Nico. It has to be Nico Collins. And then Derrick Henry or Josh Jacobs. Is this still PPR? It is. I like Henry this week. I do. I think game script is heavy in his favor. They're big. The Ravens are big home favorites against the Raiders. They should handle their business. I like Derrick Henry this week. I know that the reports came out, or John Harbaugh came out and said, we're not giving Derrick Henry 30 carries a game this year. Kind of wasn't expecting that when I drafted him anyway. I figured, the Ravens are a team that they're playing for January. They're playing for February, to be honest. The Ravens are playing for February. They're not playing for September or October. So yeah, it's smart of them to not run Derrick Henry into the ground. But when they have a lead in the second half and they want to run the ball, they're going to give the ball to Derrick Henry. I think that's going to be the case that plays out this week. Jacobs has a tougher time. Yes, he's going to get all the work, but he's going to have a tougher time with Malik Willis. I would play Derrick Henry. I would go Nico Collins over Jacobs and Brian Robinson, and I would go Derrick Henry over Josh Jacobs as well. Yep, starting Bowers over likely. It's close, E11. It is close, but the difference is Mark Andrews still could be the Ravens tight end 1 any given week, whereas I don't think there's any question Bowers is the Raiders tight end 1 every week. Michael Mayer might have his moment in the sun here and there, but they drafted Brock Bowers 13th overall for a reason. So Bowers over likely. It's close, but Bowers over likely. Okay, I got Jay's questions. I don't see any other member questions at the moment, so I am going to go back up to where I left off. Max's question about you just bought London in Dynasty. Well, for what? For what? I'm just for what? I'm curious. I like Drake London for Dynasty. But yeah, what did you give up for him? I'm just curious. Perfectly fine with acquiring London in Dynasty. I'm just curious to know what you got, or what you traded to get him. And yes, week two is a great week to go shopping because you can buy low on some bargains because people panic. People panic all the time. Remember, everybody, this is for everybody. Just remember, never be afraid to kick the tires on a player after week 1 who has a bad week. Nobody plays in the preseason anymore. This is basically the preseason. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, that's the preseason anymore. That's when the starters actually play. Don't be afraid to ever kick the tires on a player. If somebody overreacts and panics because a player that they drafted high or a player that they expected to be strong for them has a bad week 1, if they panic and overreact, see what you can get. So see what pennies on the dollar offer you can make to get that player. So yes, week 2 is a great week to go to go hunting, not for you to shake things up. I never, on the flip side, on the other side of that coin, don't be the one that sells low after a bad performance. Always always hold. You have to, especially on the guys that you invest in as the foundation of your team. Don't be that one that to sell low, but do actually go out there and at least window shop on a buy low opportunity. Absolutely. Absolutely. I typically don't like shaking things up personally in trades until maybe like week 5 or 6 of the season. But yeah, if an opportunity presents itself where a league mate is overreacting over a bad couple of performances to start the year, and I can get somebody what I think at a discount, then yeah, that's a different conversation. That's a different conversation. You offered Pittman and Dobbins for Jefferson. I would want Jefferson. I can't imagine somebody does that trade. If they do, kudos if you get Jefferson. It's not an unfair offer after what Dobbins did week 1. But as long as I'm not hurting bad at running back, I would prefer to have Jefferson. If I had Jefferson and somebody offered me that, I would say no. But so to that point, if you can get Jefferson for that offer, then yeah, I'm good with it. So it's 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, Cameron. So does that mean you can start all 3 of those guys? Can you start Jacobs, JMO, and Xavier Worthy? Can you start all of those guys? That would be my follow-up question. If you could start all 3 of those dudes, Jacobs, Jamison Williams, and Xavier Worthy. What's up, Jaws? Good to see you. Start Ramondre Stevenson over Rachaad White, Zach Charbonnet. If you, I like Ramondre Stevenson a lot this year. What is it? Full PPR? I don't see. If it's full PPR, then well, hell, Rachaad White's a good pass catcher too. But the difference between Ramondre Stevenson and Rachaad White is Rachaad White potentially has a Bucky Irving problem. Whereas Ramondre, I mean, his competition is Antonio Gibson, who didn't look good carrying the ball. He came into last week with an injury designation, so I'm not holding it against him too much. But like for whatever reason, they gave him the ball 7 times. I think he ran for like less than 20 rushing yards. I don't know why. Why don't you throw him the ball? But I digress. Ramondre, it's close, but I would take Ramondre over Rachaad White. Yeah, I would start Ramondre Stevenson. I like Rachaad White, especially in PPR leagues, but Bucky Irving looks like he's already carving out a role in that offense. Stevenson has the backfield to himself. Yeah, I would say Stevenson, full PPR. I would say Stevenson. It's close. It's not a big gap between Stevenson and Rachaad White, but Stevenson has that backfield to himself. Rachaad White is already splitting work with Bucky Irving. But at least he's getting the reception, so he still has value in PPR. Let's see. Which side of this trade? Devontae Adams, Jalen Warren, and Terry McLaurin, or Jordan Mason and Rashee Rice? Mason and Rashee Rice side, and it's not close. Is that an offer that's on the table? If you can get Jordan Mason and Rashee Rice for Devontae Adams, Jalen Warren, and Terry McLaurin, the Mason Rice side, hands down. Rashee Rice is a top 20. A lot of people look at combined running back wide receiver rankings when figuring out their flex. Rashee Rice is a top 20 flex play for the rest of the season. When you rank and combine all running backs and wide receivers, Rashee Rice is a stud, especially without Hollywood Brown. Rashee Rice is a stud, and Jordan Mason is a top 10 running back until further, top 12 running back until further notice. He's top 10 at home. Maybe he's more like top 15 in tougher matchups on the road. But the point is, Jordan Mason at this point is a dude that doesn't come out of your lineup. For Adams, who is still good, but has Gardner Minshew, Jaylen Warren's got an injury, and Terry McLaurin should have a good season. Had a down week 1. We'll see how good Jaden Daniels turns out. We're expecting good, big things, but he didn't throw the ball a ton week 1, even in a game where they were trailing. So, let's see what happens. Mason and Rashee Rice for those 3 players, and it's not particularly close for me. Yeah. Let's see. Where am I at? Yeah, Mason and Rashee Rice for Adams, Warren. It's, the Mason Rashee Rice side, hands down. Best. Is this better rest of season stash question? This is a good question. Bigsby or Bucky Irving? Let me see. Probably Bigsby. He looked good. He looked good week 1. He looked good week 1. I think he had 15 for 73. Irving looked good as well. He had 10 for 62. I would say Bigsby by a hair. If you have Rachaad White, Bucky Irving has a little bit more value to you. He's probably the preferred stash if you have Rachaad White. Now, of course, you could say the same thing if you have Travis Etienne, then tank Bigsby. But in a vacuum, all things equal, I would say Bigsby slightly. He's got the year of experience, and he got 15 carries. I think Bucky had 9 or 10. But they also had a lead in games where the Bucs are trailing, which is certainly a plausible situation this Sunday on the road against Detroit. Rachaad White's probably going to get more snaps. Bigsby looks like he might mix in regardless of game script. So I would give the slight nod to Bigsby over Bucky Irving as a stash. However, if you have Rachaad White, then Irving's a little bit more valuable. So I'll go Bigsby. Get rid of Waddle now that Tua is injured. So I did go. Yeah, I did take a similar question off the top. I don't remember what time of the stream I said it, but essentially I'm not getting rid of Tyreek or Waddle yet because I would be selling low. I still want to see where we net out on the other side of all of this in light of Tua's injury. Do the Dolphins bring in a veteran quarterback like a Ryan Tannehill? Do they make a trade to upgrade their quarterback situation in the event that Tua has an extended absence or is out for even longer than whatever an extended absence is? We have no timeline on Tua right now. We'll get that in the coming days, maybe the coming weeks. It sounds like he's already unlikely to play this week, which would shock nobody. Let's see what the Dolphins do at quarterback. Maybe Skylar Thompson impresses and overperforms a little bit. Maybe they bring in a veteran to kind of stabilize their situation like a Ryan Tannehill. I want to wait if I have Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. I don't want to trade them just yet because your league mates are probably going to try to get them at a discount. They're going to try to buy low off of you, and I don't want to go that route yet. Also, let's put up a poll. I forgot to put this up at the start of the the stream. But I do ask that if you are enjoying yourself, if you do enjoy the conversation, the stream in general, that you just like the stream, that helps it for algorithm purposes, if nothing else. Appreciate that, you guys. So no, I'm not selling Waddle. I'm not selling Tyreek Hill. I want to see how things play out. I want to give the Dolphins an opportunity, a chance to maybe bring in a veteran or get some additional clarity on the future of Tua Tagovailoa. Regardless of whether you think he should play again or not, that's not any of our decision. That is all out of our hands, regardless of what happens and regardless of what you think. So let's see where things net out. Let's see if they try to improve or stabilize their quarterback situation through either free agency or a trade. And we'll reassess on Tyreek and Waddle in the coming weeks. Let's see. Where are we at here? Pick 2 between Flowers, Ramondre, and Charbonnet. I'll take the running backs. In full PPR, I will take the running backs. Ramondre is a slam dunk for me of these 3 options. And while I don't love Charbonnet's matchup, he should get all of the opportunities. Flowers at home in full PPR should be fine. But he's ceding work now to Isaiah Likely, who looks like he will remain a regular contributor to the offense. We can potentially expect a bounce back for Mark Andrews. And the game script, if the game goes the way we expect it to, the Ravens will be running the ball because they will have a lead. Could Flowers be the direct contributor to why they have a lead? Sure, absolutely. But his usage looks like it could be kind of up and down with the emergence of Isaiah Likely. And with the expected game script that this game is expected to go, I'm not feeling as strongly about him even at home in a good matchup. I'll take the running backs. I'll take Ramondre and Charbonnet. Rest of season Cup or Cup. Keenan Allen. I saw a K. Keenan Allen or DeAndre Hopkins. So Allen is currently dealing with an injury. Hopkins is working his way back from an injury that he suffered in the preseason. I think Keenan Allen's situation is a little better than DeAndre Hopkins, and we were drafting him higher than DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, some of that had to do with Hopkins having already picked up an injury during the preseason or during training camp, whereas Allen was healthy coming into the season. He's dealing with an injury now. I would give the slight nod to Allen rest of season over DeAndre Hopkins. They're both older at this point. So there's definitely some volatility with the two of them. Even though he's banged up, I think his situation is a little bit better. I'll take Keenan Allen over Hopkins. It's close, but I'll take Keenan Allen. And what are my thoughts on Nick Chubb? Some people, I see some people telling their followers, their listeners, to go to like pick up Nick Chubb in a couple of weeks. I've seen some like channels or some subscription-based sites tell people to pick up Nick Chubb like in a few weeks, maybe like after week 4. I'm not feeling it. Dude, I'm not feeling it with Nick Chubb. I would love to be wrong because when healthy, Nick Chubb is one of the best running backs in the NFL. But that injury that he suffered last year, was a worst case scenario. It was gruesome. It was gnarly. It was bad. He suffered multiple like ACL, LCL, MCL. Like I think he needed like full reconstructive surgery on it. He's still in the process of rehabbing the injury. He's out until at least week 4, and he's been without a timeline to return, a definitive timeline to return for weeks, if not months now. I hope Nick Chubb comes back midseason and crushes it. But I think the best case scenario for Nick Chubb in 2024 is that he returns to the field at all. I don't think he's going to be the same explosive, effective 6 yards a carry type of Nick Chubb. I think we're going to see at best 50% of that. It's, it's his first year back from a massive injury, a year and time where he's going to just be spending rehabbing, not doing traditional football activities, his traditional running back activities. None of that. That's not going to be Nick Chubb's workout regimen at any point this season, or it hasn't been that point at any point dating back to the injury. It was that bad. Unfortunately, the injury was that bad. I don't have that much faith that Nick Chubb comes back and gives you any more than what Javonte Williams gave you last year. Remember Javonte Williams he was coming off a major injury after the 2022 season. The reports for him in the preseason were much better, and training camp, oh, he's out there, he's making cuts, he's practicing. It's a miracle that he's even out there to begin with. Well, guess what? He went out there last year and he played, and that was great. Good for Javonte Williams, not taking that away from him. But he didn't help you in fantasy. The final numbers just weren't there at the end of the day, unfortunately. I think that is the best case scenario with Nick Chubb, where he's just not able to do that much in whatever capacity he's able to return in his first year back. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it with Nick Chubb. I would not mind at all being wrong, but I do not have a ton of faith in Nick Chubb for the rest of 2024. ICE11 has a question. Again, appreciate everybody's patience. Members do get priority access to questions being answered out of order. So I have my spot in line. Let's see where we're at. Nick, Lucius, Ralph, Cameron, Bobby, sit tight. I see all of you. I see your questions. I will get to you. Appreciate your patience. I got to get to my members first. Show some love to the folks who help keep the lights on around here. Why do we have to make a drop? E11. Brian Thomas, Ferguson, Singletary, or Charbonnet. Why do we have to make a drop? Is this because you have to set a lineup and it's ineligible, or it's an ineligible move right now? Do we have to make a drop, or is your starting lineup already set? You need a kicker. I don't want to. You're not dropping Charbonnet because he's like start worthy this week. I don't want to drop Singletary. I guess if you picked up a tight end stream, then I guess the drop is Ferguson, because I'm not dropping Brian Thomas either. Did you pick up Parkinson, or who's your tight end? If you have Parkinson, then I would, or whoever your starting tight end is, then I would say just drop Ferguson, because you don't need a second tight end and he's injured anyway. Kittle, drop Ferguson. You're not going to start him anyway, even when healthy. You're going to rock with Kittle. I would just drop Ferguson to pick up a kicker. I would just drop Ferguson. Don't drop Brian Thomas. I like Brian Thomas. I like him a lot. And save your running back depth. Don't drop those guys either. Yeah, just drop Ferguson to pick up your kicker. Okay, back to the top. Let's see. Appreciate y'all's patience. I got Nick. Start Devontae Smith or Tank Dell. Uh, First of all, Andrews or Parkinson. I will go back to the well with Mark Andrews for one more week. I know he dudded last week, but let's go back to the well for one more week. You drafted him to be a stud tight end one. I like Parkinson this week. I like him quite a bit, but you drafted Mark Andrews probably in the 4th or 5th round. Let's not give up on him after just one bad week. He was out there. He was running routes at the same clip that Isaiah Likely was. So it's just as possible that the looks go his way this week. You drafted him to be your stud tight end one. Let's go back to the well with Andrews for one more week. Even though I do like Parkinson this week. Mark Andrews is one of the tight ends I am starting over him. As far as Devontae Smith versus Tank Dell, right now, I would probably give the slight nod to Devontae Smith because A.J. Brown is on the injury report. He didn't practice today. Questionable for Monday night. He could still play, but it's now the scenario now exists where A.J. Brown does not play Monday night. And if he does, it's possible that he's maybe a little limited. I think I give the slight nod to Devontae Smith here because he might be the clear-cut wide receiver one for Philly on Monday night. I think you go Devontae Smith over Tank Dell because the scenario exists where Devontae Smith is the clear-cut, bona fide wide receiver one for the Eagles if A.J. Brown can't play. Tank Dell is still good, still solid, still feel good about him for the rest of the season, but it's dealer's choice with those Texans wide receivers any given week. That touchdown, I mean, Stephon Diggs caught 2 of them last week, so it's possible one of those swings to Tank's way this week. But it's also possible it swings to Nico Collins. It's possible Mixon gets into the end zone. Even though he had a great week running the ball last week, I don't think Mixon got into the end zone. So the touchdown could go to him. I think I would say Devontae Smith probably has more of a hold on the chances of scoring and just putting up a stronger week if A.J. Brown is limited or just not able to play at all. And then between the Chargers or the 49ers defense this week, the Chargers get, the Chargers get the Panthers they're on the road, but at this point, why not take a chance against the Carolina Panthers offense? The 49ers should be fine going against Sam Darnold, and they are the better unit. They are by far the better unit. So that might just be the best way to go. I would say the 49ers are your safe play, and the Chargers might be more of an aggressive play if you think you need to be aggressive in your matchup. The Chargers have a beautiful matchup, but the 49ers are just the straight-up better unit, and they should be fine against Sam Darnold, even though they're on the road. The Chargers are on the road, too. I would say San Francisco. I would say San Francisco. Who's the definitive 101 now? Today, if we redrafted the definitive 101, it's either CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall, or Bijan Robinson. It's obviously not McCaffrey. Jordan Mason didn't vault that high into the 101 conversation. Tyreek Hill has just taken a hit with the status of Tua. Jamar Chase could maybe be in that conversation as well, but the vibes around the Bengals are kind of shaky between the health of Joe Burrow. T. Higgins is not practicing. We haven't heard a peep from T. Higgins this season so far that has been anything other than negative. His vibe with the team is not good. He's not practicing. He's not going to play tomorrow. So Chase, might handle a huge workload, but is Burrow's wrist healthy? That's a big question mark right now. If it's full PPR, it's probably CeeDee, and half PPR, it might be like Breece. CD, Bijan. Those are the three guys that are in the conversation for the 101. And then I would still say Jamar Chase is maybe like the 104, maybe even the 105. Justin Jefferson may have leapfrogged him just a hair. But it's probably like CD, Brees Hall, or Bijan. One of those three. Trade offer. You would give up Mason and Brock Bowers for Travis Kelce? No. Lucian, no. That is no. No. You should be playing hardball with the CMC owner. I don't know where the Christian McCaffrey, the person in your league who has Christian McCaffrey, if they didn't get Jordan Mason, do them no favors. This isn't a charity. No way. You give up Mason and Brock Bowers for Kelce? Absolutely not. Jordan Mason is an RB1 until further notice, and Brock Bowers looks like a rock solid, value tight end that you got in the draft. Whereas Travis Kelce's workload for the entire season is legitimately in question. He'll have his tight end 1 weeks, but is he going to be monster stud Travis Kelce all season long? I don't know about that. Absolutely not. No. I would come back and say, if you want Jordan Mason, you need to give me a depth running back and a good wide receiver in return. No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You go to the McCaffrey owner and you ask for good pieces in exchange for Mason, where you get two really good players and you keep Bowers. It's like, no, I'll take a good running back and a good wide receiver for Jordan Mason, but you're not getting a 2-for-1. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. No shot. No chance. No. I can't. No. No. We're doing them no favors. You play hardball. Anybody who has McCaffrey in your league who thinks that they can get a value deal where they get Mason and they come out as the on paper with the better side, no chance. Play hardball. Play hard to get. We're not doing these guys any favors. We're not doing the McCaffrey owners any favors. If you have McCaffrey and you had the wherewithal to get Jordan Mason, congrats. Smart play, savvy play, well done. But if you missed out on Jordan Mason, be prepared to be the one to shell out a decent amount to get him in a deal. No, do not do them any favors. No chance. No shot. And yep, Hollywood Brown's out for the season. Thanks, Ralph. Xavier Worthy to the moon. Rashee Rice was already there. Would I suggest dropping Chase Brown for the 49ers rookie? No. Keep Chase Brown. You drafted Chase Brown to be strong depth for your team for the entire season. We don't want to panic just because he had a down week 1. He will have his chances. He will have his opportunities. No, I'm not dropping Chase Brown. He remains a superior stash than does the 49ers rookie. No, I'm hanging on to Chase Brown. No, do not drop Chase Brown for the 49ers rookie. No. Gibbs. Cameron, you had a question about two wide receivers and one flat. Yeah, so if you can start all three of those names that you asked. If not, if you can only start two of those names, then it would be Jacobs and Jameson. Those other two guys stay in your lineup. Gibbs and Kamara stay in your lineup. I got Jay. I got E11. Thank you again to my members. Appreciate you guys. Do I think it's worth it to pick up Roman Wilson now? How deep is the league, and who would you be dropping? How deep is the league and who would you drop? If it's a 10-team league, then no. If this is like a 14-team league, then sure, the possibility exists that there's value to stash him, but how deep is the league and who would you be dropping? That is my question to your question. Rough tight end situation with Ferguson out. Taysom Hill, Hunter Henry, Cade Otton, Jordan Akins. All right. So I assume Colby Parkinson was scooped. I assume Colby Parkinson was scooped. I assume Isaiah Likely was unquestionably scooped after his performance last week. Yeah, so you're down to the bare bones. I guess Henry, I don't love it, but I guess Hunter Henry at home, it is a desperation play. At least he played. I think he was on the field for 80% of the snaps, 80+% of the snaps. He only caught 2 passes, but he is the Patriots starting tight end. I guess I would roll the dice on him. Like Taysom Hill, obviously, he's always like this, he's that tight end one Konami code every now and then. But he only played a third of the snaps for the Saints. Now, they destroyed the Panthers, and so really nobody was needed by the second half of that game. But on the road against Dallas, not a bad spot. I think I would I would roll the dice on Hunter Henry, I guess. I'll be honest, I don't feel particularly strong about that suggestion, but he's at home. New England's wide receivers are still very much like a fluid situation. I think Jalen Polk has a chance to emerge to be a pretty good player, but this is going to be his second career game. I'll try Hunter Henry at home, I guess. I don't feel great about it, but I'll take a chance on it. I'll take Hunter Henry. I'll take a chance on Hunter Henry for some volume. He's definitely got the volume on his side. I guess Cade Otton might as well, but too many mouths to feed in the Bucs offense. Evans, Godwin, Rachaad White. I'll take a chance on Hunter Henry as a desperation tight end play. This is a question to rank these running backs rest of season. These are all okay. These are all like stashes. Well, Jalen Wright would be between Ray Davis, Isaac Guerendo, Marshawn Lloyd, and Jalen Wright. I would say, well, Wright takes a hit potentially with the availability of Tua rest of season, but I guess I would say Wright. Given Raheem Mostert, it was a short week. It's a Thursday night football, so it's not totally surprising to see Raheem Mostert, the Dolphins, be cautious with him. But he has had, he does have a bit of an injury history, as does Jeff Wilson, as does Devon Achane. He missed 6 games last year. So I guess I would still say Wright. If you have James Cook, then Davis becomes a little bit more of a valuable stash. And then Guerendo if you have Mason, and then Lloyd would be 4th for me. Lloyd might still have a ways to go. He's working his way back from some end of the preseason injuries, and he's probably going to be behind Emmanuel Wilson for a little while. So I would say he's 4th. I would say Wright, then Davis. Maybe Davis leapfrogs Wright a little bit, since you have Cook. They're close to each other. The 49ers rookie 3rd, the Packers rookie 4th. What's up, Nemo? Good to see you, man. Start 2, Travis Etienne, Tony Pollard, Jerome Ford. Etienne has to be in. I know that he got, he had a lot of work taken away from him last week, but I think I leave ETN in. We drafted him high. Let's go back to the well with him one more week, even though it's not a great matchup. It's not a great matchup for Pollard either, going against the Jets. Although the Jets' run defense was a little suspect against the 49ers. Of course, the 49ers are maybe the best, one of the best offenses, one of the best rushing attacks, even with Jordan Mason instead of Christian McCaffrey in the NFL. They're one of the best. On paper, it still could be a slightly more difficult matchup. Jerome Ford probably has the most favorable matchup here. So I guess I would go Ford and ETN. I would go Ford and ETN. I'm curious to see if Pollard continues to be the lead dog for the Titans backfield. I'm curious to see if that continues to play out. He did week one. To his credit, he did week one. Tajay Spears was not it was not a 50-50 split. Pollard received more snaps and touches than Spears. I would be curious to see if that trend continues. I think I go ETN, although, he's definitely on, he's on the radar. He's on the watch list because he's losing work. He lost a decent amount of work to Tank Bigsby last week. Nevertheless, you drafted him high, so let's go back to the well with him one more week, and then I'll take Jerome Ford. Good matchup, and has that backfield to himself. Ridley, Demarcus Robinson, or Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think you have to just hope for the best with Ridley. Demarcus Robinson has a great opportunity. And actually, Ridley's going to see Sauce Gardner, so that is a tough matchup. Damn. I'll say Ridley is your floor play if you think you can play it safe, but if you prefer to but Demarcus Robinson is the upside play. If you think you need upside, if you want to play a little bit more aggressively, if you think you need it for your matchup, or you just want to take, if you want to swing for the fences, I would say that's Demarcus Robinson. Ridley would be the floor play. If you're a big favorite and you just need 8 or 9 points, maybe Ridley's fine. But going up against Sauce Gardner, that is a tough matchup. So Robinson is fine as if you want to play aggressive, if you want to swing for the fences. I can't believe that's where we're at. But that's where we're at. Rashee Rice or Deebo Samuel. You have to bench one of these two. You got to play Deebo. You got to play Deebo. His ceiling is even higher with the absence of Christian McCaffrey. They're going to run the ball even more with him on top of throwing it to him. His role is going to be huge. Rice's role is huge as well. In full PPR, Rice might be a little has a slight, maybe advantage there since Deebo will be getting carries. But I think Deebo. I want to play both of those guys, but if you can only start one, then I guess Deebo. I see E11 has a question, so I got to jump down and take care of my members. Seahawks or Colts D? The Colts. I think it's fair to say the Colts. They're playing Malik Willis, who we've not seen. What we've seen of Malik Willis thus far, it's a small sample size, but it's not impressive. He's in a better situation now than he was in Tennessee. The Packers' situation, their offense in general, that's a little bit better of a situation than what he dealt with it when he was getting his first career opportunities in Tennessee. But he just got there. He just got there a few weeks ago, and what we have seen from him isn't great. The Colts defense is probably the best stream of the weekend. I like the Seahawks against the Patriots. They had a good week one against the Broncos. I'm curious to see how they do against another beatable offense, even though it's on the road. But the Colts. Yeah, they're probably the best stream this week. You start the 49ers. You start the 49ers again over them. I would say the Jacksonville Jaguars are a really good stream against the Browns, but you start the 49ers, you start the Jets. After that, the Colts are right there. Okay. Yeah. Colts defense. Back up to the top where I left off. Jordan Whittington or Luke McCaffrey, better rest of season stash. I guess it's possibly Whittington because we don't know how long is Puka going to be dealing with this injury. Is he going to be fine after the week 6 bye week? If he is, then Jordan Whittington will remain, behind multiple dudes in the Rams offense, whereas Luke McCaffrey might have a more full-time Luke McCaffrey might have the path to a more full-time role, but Matthew Stafford is the polished veteran quarterback who is going to throw the ball. He's got 45 attempt, 50 attempt upside any given week. The Washington Commanders want to run the ball with this currently constructed offense. I would say Whittington, pending the health of Puka, which right now is in flux. So I guess my answer to then is Whittington. Josh Jacobs and Jamison Williams in return for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, yeah, in theory, St. Brown was a first-round pick this year. Jamison had a great week 1. We're still expecting St. Brown to be a stud wide receiver 1 for the rest of the season. Like we're not knocking Amon-Ra down any pegs just because he had a bad week 1. So I mean, if your wide receivers are strong, you have Chase, you have Worthy, that's good, but you have the rest of it is kind of weak. And just always keep in mind, running back depth can dry up at the drop of a hat. Like out of nowhere, all of a sudden, like it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to lose your running back depth. It just doesn't take a lot. So you want to be careful with stuff like that. You want to be careful when you trade a 2-for-1, when you're giving up a running back and a wide receiver for a wide receiver. Admittedly, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the best player in that trade, hands down. But if you lose either Kamara or Gibbs, hopefully you don't, knock on wood, we don't ever want an injury to happen to anybody, but it's football. It's going to happen. Now, all of a sudden, you're the one who's shorthanded at running back. So that would be the only thing. Can you get a running back in return in the deal? It can be like a lower tier RB4, but at least it would be decent depth of any kind, really, that you get in return. So in theory, yes, you're getting the best player in the trade, and that's always great. But I would want a running back in return in that trade, even if it's like a lower bottom tier running back, because running back depth can dry up really quickly. I see Greg has a question. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just following up. Yes, Pittman over Harrison. It's close. But for right now, I think it's fair to say that if you have good proven options, it's fine to let's pump the brakes and give Marvin Harrison a week to see if we can get a course correction, because week 1 was not good. So yeah, I would swerve to Pittman. And I would keep Aaron Jones in. And I would let Marvin Harrison simmer for a week. That's what I would do. I would let Marvin Harrison simmer for a week. So Pittman's fine. Pittman's fine to as a pivot. Let's see. Godwin or Pittman? Man, Pittman is his team's wide receiver 1, but he didn't have a great showing. Godwin looked great last week, and the Bucs passing attack looks good. That is where I would go Godwin. I would go Godwin. I would go Godwin over Pittman. So, Greg, I would go Pittman over Harrison, but then between Godwin and Pittman, I would go Godwin. He looked great last week. He's back in his natural role in the slot in this offense. There's fair to expect a fair number of points in that Lions-Bucs game tomorrow. So Godwin should do just fine. Montgomery for Godwin in full PPR. You have Gibbs, you have Achane, you have Montgomery, you have McLaughlin, you have Wright. So again, you could use a wide receiver too. You could use another wide receiver. I worry about giving up running back depth so easily when I don't get anything in return. If anything happens to Gibbs or Achane, remember, Gibbs, it was minor, thankfully, but he picked up a hamstring injury during training camp during the preseason. If that rears its ugly head again and you trade Montgomery away, now you're the one who's hurting at running back. Achane was coming into the Thursday night game with an injury designation and then handled 29 touches. Is Devon Achane going to be able to hold up over the course of the entire season if he's going to keep if something like that, if performance repeats itself? We love to see it if you have Devon Achane. We love to see 29 touches, but can he hold up receiving that work, especially on a short week coming into the game with an injury designation? That was a little dicey. That was a little like, ugh. So like, you do need a wide receiver too, for sure. But I'm awfully hesitant this early in the season trading running back depth and not getting running back depth in return. I would be awfully careful about doing something like that because y'all know how this goes with running back depth. One week you're the one with good running back depth, and the next week you're the one looking for running back depth. It happens fast. It happens quickly. So I would just caution, try to expand the trade where you get a depth running back in return, and maybe you trade one of those depth wide receivers to make it like a 2-for-2 trade. But get a running back in return. Yeah, get a running back in return. McCaffrey will be back after week 7 and he'll be fine. I mean, for his sake, I hope so. I just don't know how much confidence I have in that. Achilles tendonitis is like, I don't know. That doesn't sound spectacular. I get it. The 49ers are a team that's playing for February. They're not playing for September and October. But like, he can't get out there until week 5 at the earliest at all. I mean, I know the 49ers are good. They're one of the top 3 teams in the NFL, but like, nothing's guaranteed, man. I don't know how much confidence I have that McCaffrey will just be fine in like a month and a half. Hopefully he is. I don't know. We'll see. The recent like sequence of events has been less than good. It's been less than good. And Greg, one of your bench spots, you have Zeke. Nah, Zeke is close to the end, but he's a regular contributor right now that you expect to get the goal line work. Bigsby had a nice week 1, but I'm not there yet. I'm not crazy about Zeke, but I'm not there yet where I'm dropping Zeke for Tank Bigsby. I'm not there yet. Okay, let's see. Parkinson or Jawan Johnson? Colby Parkinson, Nemo. I'm going Colby Parkinson. I'm going Colby Parkinson. I think he's my favorite stream this week. He's my favorite stream this week. The only guys I'm starting over Colby Parkinson are the guys that you drafted with a top 70 or 80 pick. In your draft of this year. Colby is my favorite stream this week. I have him as my tight end 10 on the week. Puka's out. Yes, there's questions about which wide receiver gets the larger role, gets the expanded role. Parkinson is the team's definitive bona fide top tight end who got all of the work at the position. I think he's got as good a chance as any to see some increased volume against the Cardinals. I'm going Parkinson. Sheldon, you're well. Great to hear that you'd started James Cook and he went off. Happy to hear that worked out. Happy to have helped. Glad to hear it. Do you trade Charbonnet or Javonte? Is that to the Kenneth Walker owner for Chris Godwin? You have Cook, you have Ramondre, you have Dobbins, you have Rico Dowdle. I like that. If you can trade one of those two guys, Javonte might be the better sell, although he is the regular starter. So maybe Charbonnet is the bet. Actually, Charbonnet might be the better sell for you. If you can get Godwin for either Charbonnet or Javonte, yes, I would do that because this is a situation where you do have good running back depth. You're taking advantage of an opportunity, a window of opportunity where you give Charbonnet as a handcuff to the Kenneth Walker owner for a rock solid upgrade at wide receiver. Yeah, I think that's a good move. If you can pull that off, I would. If you can get Godwin for Zach Charbonnet, yes, I would do that trade. That helps the Kenneth Walker owner because now they have the handcuff. They have that whole backfield no matter what happens. And you get a big upgrade at wide receiver. You're taking advantage of a window of opportunity to make a trade like that. Yes. Yes, I would do that. I would absolutely do that. I got to keep an eye on the clock. I got a concert to get to somewhat soon, but I see everybody's question. And right now the intention is to get to everybody. If I do not get your question, and as of right now, if your question is in the chat, I will get to it. But if any come in at the last second and I just miss them, just post them as a comment on this stream after it's over, and I will answer it before the Sunday slate tomorrow. I will also be live 11 a.m. Eastern. I think I will have a special guest joining me tomorrow, so there will be a couple of us to bounce some ideas off of tomorrow. 11 a.m. Eastern, 2 hours before the start of the slate. We can go over any last-minute thoughts that you may have, but I will get to anybody that has a question already in the chat. Appreciate everybody's patience and just generally coming in and hanging out tonight. Whether you've been here for a minute or 10 minutes or an hour, who the hell knows? I thank you. Appreciate you guys thinking enough to spend some time here tonight. And hopefully the advice helps y'all out. Let's get some wins. Let's make some good trades. Let's do all the good things, shall we? Hope everybody does well tomorrow. Do you go Jaden Reed over Jerome Ford in the flex in full PPR? I like Jaden Reed a lot. He's a damn good player. But the downgrade to Malik Willis is enough for me to not want to play him over somebody like Jerome Ford, who is going to get all the backfield work in a beatable matchup against Jacksonville. Jerome Ford over Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed's a baller. But Malik Willis is a big downgrade for this Packers offense. So let's go with Jerome Ford. And Kenny, you're right. Henry did get a jump. He just missed a jump ball in the end zone. Yeah, Hunter Henry's fortunes could turn around tomorrow. Maybe that course corrects. So, yeah. If you're in a really, really bad spot at tight end, you missed Colby Parkinson, you missed Isaiah Likely, Hunter Henry is the next man up. If and then maybe, or if you maybe have Dallas Goedert, he might have an expanded role on Monday night if AJ Brown is ruled out or limited with this injury that has kept him out of practice. Do you sit AJ Brown for Brian Robinson? No. Here's what you do for anybody for anybody who has AJ Brown. Here's what you do. You put AJ Brown in your flex. Whoever is in your flex right now, you swap that player for AJ Brown. If AJ Brown plays, he's in your lineup. He stays in your flex. He starts. He's in there as a wide receiver 1. If he's out, it would suck. It would be a brutal pivot, most likely. But AJ Brown is the type of dude that is worth it to hold out for. Check if Jahan Dotson is available. Check if Ray McCloud is available. That's the Eagles' opponent, the Falcons. Ray McCloud, of all people, led the Falcons, I believe, in receiving yards last week. You live with the results if AJ Brown can't go. It would suck to have to make a pivot like that. But AJ Brown is that dude. You drafted him in the first round, maybe the top of the second round, depending on how your league goes. You wait on him. You wait on him until the absolute last minute, and you pivot to an alternative if you absolutely have to. It sucks that it's Monday night and you're going to be down to bare bones alternatives if he can't go, but it's AJ Brown. You have to play. You hold out for him. If he can't go, pick up Jahan Dotson. If Jahan Dotson is already rostered, then pick up Ray McCloud. You wait on AJ Brown until you absolutely have to make a decision. Put him in your flex and hope for the best. Trade question. You give Joe Mixon, you give Brandon Ayuk, you give Rashee Rice, you give Tajay Spears. You get Justin Jefferson and James Conner. I think that's too much to give up. Justin Jefferson is the best player in this trade, and James Conner is a rock-solid, high usage running back when healthy. He's a rock solid RB2 with RB1 upside any given week, depending on game script results, how things play out, all that stuff. I just think that is too much to give up for those two guys. Rashee Rice looks like a wide receiver 1 rest of season. Brandon Ayuk should get better over the course of the season. The contract stuff is behind him. He dropped a touchdown last week. You figure that things are going to look up for Brandon Ayuk. Mixon looks locked in as a high usage, running back for the Texans. He's got RB1 upside. Tajay Spears, I'm not giving up on. I think he's good running back depth. I would not do that trade. I think you would be giving up too much. Justin Jefferson's the best player in that trade, but I think you would be giving up too much. I would hold your pieces. Yeah, do not give those guys up. Ford, Dobbins, Moss, Terry, and Cooks. We need a running back. We need a wide receiver. We need a flex. Ford for your running back. Terry McLaurin for your... Oh, shit. Maybe Terry McLaurin for your wide receiver. It might have to be Brandon Cooks. Cooks might be the better play if Washington goes run heavy in a game that they should handle against the Giants. Nemo, I will say, if you think you need upside, Cooks. If you think you can play it safe, Terry McLaurin. So if you play Cooks, then I would maybe say just play both wide receivers. Because I do like Terry to have a chance to make a play against the Giants. I think Ford needs to be in. I think I need to wait one more week on J.K. Dobbins. And what's the scoring, Nemo? What's the scoring for you, Nemo? Is it full PPR? If it's full PPR, I maybe say Ford, Cooks, and Terry. If it's half PPR, I would say Ford, and then I might go Moss in the flex. And then if it's half PPR, I go Ford as your running back, Moss in the flex. I go Terry as your safe play. I go Cooks as your upside play. If it's full PPR, I think I might just play Ford and both of the wide receivers. I think that's where I'm going. Adam Thielen, Gabe Davis, or A.D. Mitchell? We're starting one as a flex. Interesting question here. Say full PPR. Oh, I don't see a scoring. Thielen. And it's full PPR, Nemo. I would maybe play both of those wide receivers and Jerome Ford. Brandon Cooks got 7 targets last week. He's still doing it. Thielen, Gabe Davis, or A.D. Mitchell. The tempting play here is Mitchell. He was not very far away from a huge game last week. I think Mitchell's your upside play. The connection between him and Anthony Richardson was just off. If they connected on a few more throws, this is not even a question. Mitchell is starting over these guys, and it's not even a question. I think I go Mitchell. If you're just banking on like a little extra better connection that they surely worked on in practice this week, I would swing for the fences and go Mitchell. Favorable situation. The Packers are probably in a bad spot this week, starting Malik Willis at quarterback. I would go Mitchell. Thielen, there feels like there's no upside with on a bad Panthers offense, and Gabe Davis is what he is. Mitchell has all the upside. I think that's where I would go. And Greg, sorry, I'm just now seeing your other question. You're trying to make a move. You would trade Love and Mixon for Dak and Jacobs? Is this a one quarterback league or is this a super flex league? Because if it's a one quarterback league, then no. No, because Mixon's prospects for the next month are better than Jacobs' prospects in a worse offense that is being quarterbacked by Malik Willis. Is this one quarterback? I say no. Even if it's super flex, I think I say no. I don't know how big of an upgrade Dak is over a healthy Jordan Love. Obviously, Dak is a more valuable piece right now, but we drafted Jordan Love, or most likely Jordan Love was drafted ahead of Dak Prescott. So I would say no. All right, I got to speed through the rest of these questions. Again, I will be live tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, but I am coming up a little bit short on time here. So I see the last few questions, A2Z, Mark, Blue Yays, Keith. I see all y'all. I'm going to speed round through all of these, and then I have to cut it short here in the next 5-10 minutes or so. But I will be live again tomorrow. If you need any last-minute thoughts, 11 a.m. Eastern, you can come hang out then. And we'll get your question answered if we don't get to it tonight. You can also ask your question if I don't get to it in the form of a comment on the live stream, and I will answer it offline when I have an opportunity to. What to do with Deshaun Watson? In Superflex, you have to hold him. But it's a good job grabbing Jameis Winston because it's looking very possible that he starts games this year. I don't think you worry about picking up DTR. Not yet. I don't think you worry about picking up DTR. It was good to grab Winston as a stash. If you're relying on Deshaun Watson, I hope that means you kind of punted on quarterback a little bit, and maybe the rest of your roster is good enough, like top to bottom at running back and wide receiver, to get you through. But yeah, Watson does not look good. The off-field situation does not get any better for him. He remains in the news for all the wrong reasons. So yeah. Keep Jameis Winston on standby. I don't think DTR is worth it yet. If you're at the point in your season where you're relying on DTR potentially to get you through games, that's not good. Winston is good though. as a stash and hold for the rest of the season in Superflex. Drop Ford or Singletary to pick up Corum or Chase Brown. No. They are really interesting, intriguing stashes, but Ford and Singletary are starters now who could contribute now. No. Keep the dudes who are at the top of the depth charts right now. Keep those guys. Don't give up a bird in the hand for two in the bush. We have no idea what Corum, we can only project what Blake Corum might give this year. Garendo is a deep dynasty stash, deep team stash, nothing. Jerome Ford, no, he is the Browns starting running back. Devin Singletary is the Giants starting running back. Keep the starters. The guys who are starters now, not the guys who might become starters later. 1 QB, Greg. No, I'm not making that trade. I'm not worried about that. I'll stream a quarterback and keep the better running back situation. I like Josh Jacobs, but Joe Mixon is in a better situation right now than Josh Jacobs for at least the next month. What did we say about Pickens? Is that for this week? You start him as a wide receiver 3, but you don't have a whole lot of hope because it's a bad matchup. He's talented enough to come through, but it is a bad matchup against Patrick Surtain. Hopefully you're not relying on him. You might have to. You might not have a choice. But, yeah, we're lowering expectations big time for Pickens. Kyren and London or Pacheco and Reed? I guess it's pretty fair. We know, all of these guys are very good. Kyren has a little bit of an injury history. London, we'll see how Kirk Cousins' health improves in the coming weeks. If you can be patient with Jaden Reed and assuming that Jordan Love comes back fully healthy, say in a month or so, I think I'd slightly rather have Pacheco and Reed. It is close. I think this is a fair trade on paper. I don't think there's a winner. I don't think there's a winner. London is a slightly more valuable than receiver than Jaden Reed based on draft capital, and Kyren was drafted slightly ahead of Isaiah Pacheco, but Pacheco is probably in the slightly better situation, and Reed already balled out week 1. We saw him ball out with his starter. We didn't see Drake London ball out yet. I would say it's a fair trade. I guess I might slightly prefer Pacheco, but I have to wait for Jaden Reed for his value to come back up for like a month or so. I think it's fair. I mean, I don't mean to like cop out, but I think it's a fairly even trade. You're trying to trade Mason? Don't. You have Achane, you have Mason, you have Swift. I don't see another running back here. No, don't trade Mason. Unless you're getting like a stud running back for him, then no, don't trade Jordan Mason. You won by getting Jordan Mason and not having McCaffrey. No. You have Gus. I see you have Gus Edwards. Yeah, no. Keep Jordan Mason. Start him as an RB1. Don't trade him unless you get an offer that is another regular RB1, a guy that was drafted as an RB1 going into the season. I'm talking like one of the top end options. Mason, and you have Kyrie. No, I would still say no. I would unless get a stud at wide receiver. Get an absolute baller stud wide receiver. You can ask for top dollar for Jordan Mason right now if you're going to deal him. I wouldn't, but if you can upgrade at wide receiver, then get a stud. But you have Ayuk. I mean, you could see what happens with Tyreek Hill after the Tua situation. You still have Ayuk. He should be better moving forward. London should be better moving forward. Yeah, I might just hold. I might just hold. You have a top 12 to 15 running back for at least the next month, maybe longer, probably longer. I would just hold. Jalen Warren or Chuba Hubbard? Chuba. We need to see an increased usage from Jalen Warren before we fire him up. I guess I would go Chuba. It should be a beatable matchup against the Chargers. I would go Chuba. We need to see more from Warren. Greg, I got you. Nemo, appreciate you. You already know. Pick one to start, Jamar or Rashee Rice. You have to pick one. Shit, you can't play both of these guys. I guess, man. I don't have a ton of confidence in this, I'll be completely honest, but I think you have to go back to the well with Jamar Chase. Is he on the, what is the status of Jamar Chase? I think you have to go back to Jamar Chase. Is he on? He's not on the injury report, right? The vibes were weird with him last week, but he's not on the injury report now, right? No. Chase, I don't feel great. The vibes around the Bengals are not great right now, but Jamar Chase was drafted as a top 5 pick. Rashee Rice is that dude, but you have to play Jamar Chase. I think you have to. I don't think you have a choice. Tell your commissioner to expand your rosters. You should be able to start both of those guys. That's my real answer to your question. At the end of the season, tell your commissioner to expand your rosters. You should be able to play both. But since you can only play one, I think it has to be Jamar Chase. You traded Tajay Spears, Kyle Pitts, and Wandale for Olave and Goddard. Oh, I think I remember this. Oh, you have Cup and well, that explains. And you're loaded at wide receiver. Maybe trade one of those dudes for a stud at running back. You traded Spears, Pitts, and Wandale for Olave and Goddard. I remember this. I was okay with this deal ultimately because, or I think this was a comment. I think this was a question asked to me, or maybe it was something different on another video. I'm fine with this trade because Olave is the biggest piece of this trade. Pitts to Goddard is a downgrade for you at tight end, but Olave is a massive, massive wide receiver upgrade. So I'm good with that. Looks like a pretty good team. Running back, you're hurting a little bit because Walker's out this week. Hopefully you're not relying on Trey Benson. And obviously Jonathan Brooks is out until probably week 7 or 8. But those are some good Olave and Lamb. I mean, that's top of the line. That's top of the line at wide receiver. Nicely done. Dobbins or Diggs? I mean, Diggs had 2 touchdowns, but it was a little random. What is the scoring? If it's full PPR, Diggs. If it's half PPR, I might actually say go Dobbins. Against the Carolina Panthers, yeah, that's a pretty damn good matchup. If it's half PPR, I think I might actually say go Dobbins. But if it's full PPR, you might want to just go back to the wide receiver. And Nemo, I'm going with the Colts from that group. I agree that New England defense could be solid. West Coast team coming east to play an early game. I like identifying those situations, but I would go with the Colts. Malik Willis has been in Green Bay for like 3 weeks. And now he has to start. And what we've seen from him previously isn't great at all. I would go with the Colts. Oh, and the trade doesn't go through until next week. Okay, so you could. It's an emergency situation, but for this week you could play Spears since you don't have Walker. But at least you have Cook. That worked out great. He did the job of 2 running backs. So there you go. Whatever Spears gives you might be actually gravy for this week. But yeah, Nemo, I would go with the Colts. They are on the road, but against Malik Willis, who has only been there for a few weeks, I would play Indianapolis. They're probably a top 5 play at defense this week, along with the 49ers, the Jags. The Jets might be in a good spot going up against Will Levis, and then probably the Colts. After that. So 4th. I would say the Colts. We are at the end of the chat, and I do have to run. So with that said, appreciate everybody. Thank you for the discourse, the dialogue. Hopefully I helped answer your questions. If you need any last-second thoughts or any last-minute sanity checks ahead of the Sunday slate, I will be live tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, same place. I think I will be joined by a special guest, so you'll have 2 people to bounce some thoughts off of. a couple hours before the Sunday slate kicks off. Thank you, everybody. Special shout out to my members and my day one folks. Appreciate all of you helping to keep the lights on. And anybody who has been here before, or maybe you're just joining for the first time, welcome in. I do these start sit streams every weekend, hopefully helping you guys sort out your starting lineup. And let's get a win. Let's get a dub in week 2. Let's go to 2-0. If you got a win last week, let's right the ship and even things up if you maybe things didn't go your way last week. It's still plenty early in the season for us to correct the course if that's the case. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate y'all engagement. Don't forget to like if you enjoy the dialogue and the discourse. That helps for algorithm purposes. Thank you in advance. And I'll either see you tomorrow, or if not, best of luck this weekend. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.